Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 34 of the Knowledge Nest. This week, we are going to talk about how to find resources and how to start your research. We've talked in previous weeks about Boolean keywords and navigating databases. And then last week, we talked about strategies for evaluating the effectiveness and accuracy and authoritativeness of your sources. And I realized that we need to take a step back and talk about what types of sources can you use and should you look for when you're doing your research. You could argue that I kind of missed the ball on the order. I should have talked about this before, but it's kind of nice to be able to know what aspects and what features your resources should have, what shows they're authoritative, what shows they're relevant, and also how to navigate databases. And then you can kind of look through the search results. So I think this was kind of a good way to do it. But in any case, you can go and look through these episodes out of order on Spotify or on YouTube or however you're accessing these episodes. And so I hope this episode will be very good. Fortunately for me, we have a LibGuides page devoted to this topic, and I thought, yes, you can go to the LibGuides page and read it. It's called Research Tips and Peer-Reviewed Articles, or simply Research. But I thought I would kind of give my perspective on this as a digital initiatives librarian and show you my thoughts on this and kind of have a discussion as you're viewing the page. But before we get to this topic, we're going to have a bit of news. On September 15th, we had the Hispanic Heritage Month kickoff. It was a wonderful night of fun and cultural celebrations and awesome food. And so that happened. And Hispanic Heritage Month is happening from September 15th to October 15th. And not as part of that, but we did this before. We did this, I think in January is when it was completed. But we have a Spanish language section in the back of the library. And so please come and take advantage of that. We have resources, academic resources, fiction books, translations, original works in Spanish for all reading levels and for all types of people who are interested in learning Spanish or just reading Spanish or really any interest you have. There are many, many Spanish books, and that is constantly growing. That is one of the things we are going to constantly be developing. We are looking for feedback continuously on this specific section of our holdings. And this success and the reception that the Spanish collection has had has inspired us to start a graphic novels section. And so we're going to have a graphic novels section that's separate from everything else. And we're also going to revamp our fiction section so it's easier to navigate and easier to determine where specific books are. We're kind of going to depart from the Library of Congress system. And so that's going to be a new thing. But for now, please visit our Spanish section, especially during Hispanic Heritage Month, and learn about that language and Spanish-speaking cultures. So that is one way that you can contribute to Hispanic Heritage Month. We also, in the last week of September, 2 weeks from now, have our book club, as I've said, Hidden Pictures is going to be the novel we're going to talk about. It's a horror novel. Again, get a jump start on the fall reading challenge. In October, we have to read a horror novel. So that'll be exciting, or a murder mystery, more specifically. So that'll be fun. Please participate in that. Now on to our topic. Why do we need to do research? How do we do research? There is a newsletter that used to go out. Obviously, we have Allison's newsletter, which is very helpful, but we have this thing called Library Talk. And I used an issue of it last time for when we were talking about evaluating sources. But this old newsletter has stuff about Boolean operators and searching statements and interlibrary loan, even using Word. We have our guide to research, which is more updated now, which includes videos on these topics, but you can look through it in print form if you want to. And so and obviously we have the podcast episodes and many iterations of these topics. So we also have us. You can come and talk to us. Ross is the reference librarian, Ross Sempek, and you can talk to him. He's eager to help. We have so many opportunities, and you can come in as a class and talk to us, and we can do a class on research and databases. So many opportunities to learn how to research and learn the resources that we have. But let's just go over a few general topics and general hints and tips on how to conduct good research and what resources to use. So research means to search or to seek, or a faux etymology of I guess not really a faux etymology, but an adaptation of the word is to look again or to search again, research. And both of these terms, one from French and the faux etymology in English, talk about repeatedly searching. When you seek for something, you don't necessarily only look in one place one time. You can go back and look at it again, look at it from a new perspective. And so that's what historians do. And a lot of academics, anthropologists, when we're looking through diaries as well, for cultural clues and aspects of religious ceremonies or points of view or things like that, you look at the same thing through different lenses multiple times because the way that you look at something can affect what you find in it. And so look at the same things multiple times. That's why you have to do the CRAP test or the SIFT analysis. You're looking for different aspects and you learn different things when you look at the same thing multiple times. When you're researching, and you have your own way of doing this, fortunately in EBSCO, there's a way that you can compile your sources in your database, your own little database. You go through the database, you look at the article, and then you have an option to save it to a project or to save it in an email or to save it as a PDF. And you can build your own little source bank or corpus or whatever you want to call it. And maybe I can go through on another episode and show you how to do that, kind of go in a more in-depth EBSCO journey of how to build your own web of information things. In fact, I will do that next week. But you want to start with a specific concept. On another episode, I might go and how to determine a concept and how to find a concept. But a name of a person or an event, a date or a date range, a movement or a concept, an idea, and stick to this name, date, or concept throughout your whole search process, at least for this one research session. You're going to be tempted to go off on tangents, but stick to this one person, unless you can directly track this concept back to the original concept. Stick with one concept and don't go off on tangents. You're looking for background information and important topics related to these name, dates, or concepts. And then you can use what you find in one source to look in other sources. An excellent example, is using Wikipedia and looking at the sources at Wikipedia and then looking at their sources. Kind of, again, building a web of sources that all have to do with this particular date or concept. And then in other sessions, or maybe in the same session, if you want to compartmentalize things, have a break and then come back to it, you can look at the other subjects that you found in your original source. A lot of people, when I was in elementary school and junior high, to be fair, used note cards for this, index cards for this. I personally I store things in different folders, and I build an outline and then I link to an outline. There's many, many different ways. No one way is the correct way. I'm sure that your educators, your instructors will have issues with me saying this, but just because they have their way doesn't mean that you can't build your own. And even if you would prefer to have your own system, use your educators, use your instructor's way of doing things, whatever they suggest, because you may find that their system is better than the one that you wanted to use. And so you can adapt your own or go wholesale into their way. You can use a lot of different systems and combine them. And you can learn a lot, again, from using a different point of view in your research. What types of information sources can you use in your research? We have books, magazines, and journals. Again, for academic purposes, I would use journals. I would not use magazines. You have videos and music, especially as primary sources. These are excellent. I love classical music and the ideas that it can express about ideas that composers were having and other things. The internet, people and organizations, their websites, or if you're looking at historical things, we have archives materials. We have programs from musical performances. And you might not think that music programs are sources of information that are important, but you can find loads of information from event programs, from music reviews in newspapers, from event programs for political things, or for state of the college or state of the union, state of the state addresses or minutes. All sorts of things can be found in places that you might not expect. So don't rule out looking at kind of the boring ephemeral things, because those can have information as well. That's why we have archives, to track all the minutes, the records, diaries of different people, and see how those things inform our knowledge of broader movements or of familial ties or of local groups. Again, many different resources. Next, and this is where the index cards do come in handy, note where you looked, what resource you had, and what you were looking for. What perspective did you have when you were looking at a specific information resource? Because you could, again, look for another topic in the same resource and find other things. Where did you look? Did you use technical search words? Did you use ordinary terms? What Boolean terms did you use? What ones did you not use? I like this. How many different ways can you spell Tchaikovsky? There are hundreds. Maybe not hundreds, but there are dozens. Bach also. If you looked at the IMSLP database, which I love, again, I did an episode on that, you search Bach's name or Tchaikovsky's name, and it will come up with dozens of different iterations in different languages, but also in the same language. Tchaikovsky, there are versions of his name where there's dashes between the Chai and the Kovsky. There's versions that use an I instead of a Y or a W instead of a V. Many different ways you can spell his name. There's even a version that has an S instead of the CH. Again, track new synonyms or new topics that are related to your subjects, other resources, related things. Note new things. And that's why I like using digital things, why I type things up and I do annotated bibliographies and things like that online, because it's easier to note branches off when you have something you can change in the moment. No shade on the index card method or database, other external things, Zotero, but I like where I can note the subject relations and the different things, the concept maps, if you will, between resources. It just helps me research better. And also, again, I would be flexible in what you write on, what you're going to decide to write, until it is set, until you've done a lot of research, because it may be that you want to write about a related topic than your original topic. Again, finding a good research topic is half the battle. Once you find it, after you research it, you may switch. And so don't be so rigid in what you decide to write about. You may find a lot of stuff, you have to narrow it. You may find a little information and have to broaden your research. Or again, a related topic might be interesting and it might be more fruitful. Once your topic is set, don't get distracted. Again, a little more flexibility. All my respect to whoever wrote this, but you might want to change your topic. Ask for help from us. Ask Ross. Ask me. Ask Allison. Ask Miranda. She's at the front desk. Ask anybody. Even the work study students I found have a lot of different information. knowledge about how to use databases and how to search for things. So I hope that was helpful and that you now have some information as to some good research tips and hints and what resources you can use when you are finding topics for your papers or for your own research, scientific research, or other things like that. Again, we are always here to help, and I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time here on the Knowledge Nest.